What can the latest cybersecurity news teach your board and C-suite about fortifying your organization's defenses? Welcome to CyberBoardCast episode 294. I'm Andrzej Cetnarski for CyberNation Central, and today we cover the top 6 board and C-suite impacting cybersecurity news stories from the past week. Let's dive in. First, CrowdStrike sued by investors over massive global IT outage. Not surprising, right? This is by Bleeping Computer. And the impact here is quite substantial for all boards and C-suites. The lawsuit underscores the severe failure of CrowdStrike board's cyber governance duty discharge, right? As well as investors' own poor cyber due diligence to begin with, and also CrowdStrike and Microsoft's clients' over-reliance on single points of failure providers. All kind of stemming, if you think about it, from poor testing and validation processes, causing all these stakeholders financial, reputational damage across the what's known as 15 common breach costs. So you can reference those at cybernationcentral.com/fiduciary-cyber-priorities. And so therefore your action is for your board to mandate and investors to make investment conditional on comprehensive quality control checks for software updates, and frankly for the entire A to Z of the cyber profile of your organization, all its processes. And the CISO and CSO, Chief Security Officer and Chief Information Security Officer, should really report regularly on these measures to the board and the rest of the C-suite, whereas the legal counsel should review vendor agreements for liability coverage, because right this second, everybody's seeing how critical that actually is. Not the least of which is the cyber insurers that are losing millions in the process. Second piece of news, related. Delta hires David Boies to seek damages from CrowdStrike and Microsoft. This is according to CNBC's reporting. And the impact here is, well, Delta's legal action for 300 to 500 million of damages allegedly caused by the outage illustrates the potential financial, reputational, and legal, again, repercussions stemming not just from an outage like this, but from its prolonged recovery. And so the lesson here is twofold. Don't make it happen, and if you make it happen, make the bounce back as short as possible. And so therefore action, well, this highlights CrowdStrike, Microsoft, and Delta's own board's failures to ensure robust incident response and legal strategies sufficient to, first of all, avert, and if you can't avert, then promptly respond, and appropriately legally mitigate an outage of this size. Your legal counsel should collaborate with risk management to develop these strategies alongside the CISO and CSO, and the CEO should require and participate in regular tabletop exercises that avert these. Third piece of news is what health IT pros can learn from the CrowdStrike outage. And this is health tech security reporting. The impact here, well, this article emphasizes the need for resilience and redundancy in IT health systems to mitigate the effects of outages. Redundancy here meaning, again, don't rely on one single point of failure provider. The action, therefore, boards should mandate the development of not just incident response and business continuity plans, but ones robust enough to withstand outages with multifold impact of this one, right? Because cybercrime is heading there, and you will need to exercise that kind of a playbook, so you really should be working on that playbook right now. The CIO and CISO should regularly test and update these plans, and the risk committee on the board should oversee preparedness efforts, right? The fourth piece of reporting is, why is the health breach notification rule, or rather, what is the health breach notification rule? Who does it apply to? And that's according to Health Tech Security again. The impact here, especially for health organizations, but I always love to tell all industries, learn from each other's industry, because best practices lurk in each of your industries, right? So if you're a healthcare company, learn from the financial sector, because Best practices there are kind of ahead of healthcare, healthcare being the highest cost of breach still, according to IBM's 2024 data breach report. Right? So learn from other industries. So here, the health breach notification rule basically requires covered entities and their business associates, right? This is critical, and their business associates to notify individuals, the Health and Human Services, HHS, and sometimes the media when there is a breach of unsecured protected health information. It applies to health plans, healthcare clearinghouses, and healthcare providers who transmit health information electronically, as well as their business associates. Again, right? So this covers quite a swath here. Compliance is therefore crucial to avoid fines and reputational damage. The action, therefore, boards should ensure a strong understanding of this rule and its regulatory obligations to avoid fines and reputational damage, and frankly, wasting time on having to respond to issues that could have been prevented if the rule were followed to begin with, right? This whole operational shutdown, how long does it take us to respond to a breach? The emotional angst we experience when breached and during recovery, all of that is sort of the hidden cost of breach that we're not talking about yet enough. And yet people get fired, right? People's family lives are put at risk, etc. So aversion, prevention is worth its weight in gold, right? So focus on a breach preventative program. You can reference cybernationcentral.com to learn more about how to do that as well. And so the Compliance Committee really should work with legal counsel here to meet the requirements, and regular training sessions should keep staff informed. And finally, the fifth piece of major news this week: why markets' most regulated sectors need military-grade cybersecurity. And this is CNBC reporting. The impact here is huge. This article rightly stresses the need for high security standards in regulated sectors to protect critical infrastructure and sensitive data. But bear in mind here, this isn't just about tech security, right? Because only maximum somewhere between 3 to 30% of cybersecurity breaches are caused by purely technology weaknesses. The rest of it is social engineering that emanates from poor governance. Case in point, right? CrowdStrike's outage was not just a technology failure, it was a governance failure, right? Similarly, by poor strategy and by poor conduct. So you really need to take a 360 approach, which is why cybersecurity is such a critical board, whole of C-suite, not just CISO job, right? I hope that that's starting to really click, and why every single person on the board and C-suite has a role to play, okay? So your board should advocate for military-grade cybersecurity protocols, and the CSO and CISO should implement and update these measures. The risk committee, of course, should oversee their effectiveness from there as well. Make sure to address these issues and do so at the board and C-suite wide level to enhance your organization's cybersecurity posture and resilience. Assuming your CISO, by the way, can do it all, will get your organization breached. No questions asked. So avoid this mindset. And remember, cybersecurity must be shared as a mindset across all stakeholders, so you avoid your weakest link from becoming your downfall. Tomorrow we will return to our regular programming and the mini-series on advanced cyber roles and responsibilities for board directors and C-suite executives, individually and collectively, which really becomes a critical topic in light of the continued fallout from the CrowdStrike-caused global IT outage, isn't it, right? But to keep your shareholders, insurers, regulators, and employees reassured that your board and C-suite really are ready to lead cybersecurity and are actually doing so, make sure to apply for and maintain the Certified Cyber Fiduciary CCF certification by CyberNation Central for your entire board and C-suite. Schedule your consultation at cybernationcentral.com, and until next time, stay vigilant and always proactive.